Yeah, 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 yeah. Welcome to Riders Live. I'm your host, Riders. Today I have a very special guest from Chicago, Illinois, Miss Cynda Williams. Introduce yourself to the listeners of Riders Live and tell them a little bit about yourself.
All right. Hi, my name is Cynda, as he said, and I have been a professional entertainer for the last 30, shoot, almost 35 years. And most people know me from my earlier work, Mo Better Blues, One False Move, Caught Up, and such. And I've done quite a few movies, been very blessed in my career. Had one song that people know about, Harlem Blues. Did a lot of singing, but that's the song people know. And that's how most people know me.
Okay, growing up in Chicago, I'm a Chicagoan myself. What
Mhm.
was it like for you?
It was there were great times and there were difficult times. We moved as a family from the West Side because when I was between the ages of birth and almost five, we lived on the West Side in an apartment. Um, and then we moved to the South Side when I was going to start school. And we were the second Black family that moved to that neighborhood. It was all white, and within a year, everyone left. So, my mom is Caucasian, Irish descent, and my father is Black, and this was in the 60s, Well, actually, by the time we moved there, it was like 71. And it was very different being different. I didn't quite look like anybody else because mixing just wasn't the thing that really was happening in a lot of places yet. That wasn't really a thing. So I kind of stood out, and then add to that, I was very shy, had experienced some abuse and things like that. So um, I experienced, eventually, I made some great friends and loved my neighborhood, but I was a loner and spent a lot of time alone. And it took a while for me to spread my wings. And then the neighborhood started getting really difficult to be in. Crack was starting to pour in. Gangs were starting to really become a thing. And our house got broken into. So my dad was like, that's it. My father was a CPD at the time. And so he really knew what was going on. And he did not want us growing up in that neighborhood anymore. So we moved to Indiana. But when I was in Chicago, I especially had some phenomenal teachers that I loved very much, that helped the spark that was in me when it came to my creative gifts. They encouraged those gifts, and they believed in me. So it helped me believe in me. So my experience in school, though, compared to a lot of other schools, we didn't have the best education considering the amount of times the teachers had to go on strike. So we were not in school a lot, and got behind. And so when I moved, it took some time for me to catch up with the other students who were my same age. But nothing can replace the love I felt from these teachers, the empowerment that they instilled in me, and the encouragement that they adorned me with. They were just lovely people.
That's awesome. I'm a teacher myself.
Uh-huh.
So, how did you get into acting and what led to your big break in Mo Better Blues?
Well, when I was a kid, like I said, I was an introvert and was very quiet. And so I spent a lot of time talking to myself. And I I didn't know what I was doing. I just was just being my own friend, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had an issue with someone else's actions, I was never the type at the time to be proactive about that, but I would have a surefire argument with them by myself, and I would be myself and them out loud, and I would always win the argument that way. So that's kind of how I started. That creative imaginary spark happened. It was kind of like a self-help therapy. I didn't know that's what I was doing, but that was what I was doing. And then my uncle was a professional singer, and he could tell that there was something he saw when I changed. And after I had some trauma, I didn't tell anybody, but he could tell something was up. So he took me under his wing. And though he was very busy with his own music career, he started teaching me very young how to sing. And so that really started the whole creative journey because the arts kind of they saved my life, honestly. They gave me an outlet. It was like I said, it was therapy for me in its odd way, and I could truly immerse myself in my gifts, and I felt self-esteem because of what I recognized in myself as talent. And that was the only thing I was truly sure of is that I could sing and that I could act and that I could write. I knew I could do those things. So with that, I was able to overcome a lot of stuff. So when I moved to Indiana, again, very fortunate with the teachers I had, very different environment. I went from an all black school with just a sprinkle of white chips in there as teachers and
Mm-hmm.
one white student to the opposite of that, almost all white and wealthy to boot, with a sprinkle of blacks. And then there was me. And they all knew each other. Racism was huge there. And Black people didn't like who they didn't know. So I was very much alone again. I had started finally making friends when I was in Chicago, my last like seventh and eighth grade, sixth, seventh, and eighth grades, really making friends. So now here I am again, no, don't know anybody. And but the teachers recognized in me right away that I could sing and that I could possibly act. So they started opening doors for me. There was an English teacher who ran a theater department who took really huge risks by casting me in things because I was at the time the only Black person there was that was doing anything. And it would anger parents and their kids because this N word come up in here and taking our roles and blah, blah, blah. And she saw something in me. So she made sure that she was doing projects that she could cast me in.
Mm-hmm.
And she took a lot of flack for that. She took a lot of flack. Parents coming up to the school freaking out because this woman, this kid comes in there taking their children's roles and blah blah blah. And so, but she did not care what they said. And then the music teachers, they saw in me what they saw in me, they heard from me. And so again, a few teachers really gave me the boost that I need to know this is what I want to do. So I ended up going to college, same thing. And I knew that I couldn't stay in Chicago or come back to Chicago because I had auditioned for a few things. And the casting directors, all of them told me, you don't fit Chicago. You're not black enough, and you're definitely not white. You don't speak Spanish, so you're probably not that. We don't really have a big market there. You're not going to work here if you stay here. You should leave. Go to New York, go to LA. So I'd been to both LA and New York and preferred the city. I like cities. So I
Mm-hmm.
moved to New York, got a job in a restaurant, and started auditioning. Got my first off Broadway musical. I went there to do Broadway. That's what I thought I was going to do. But then all these people at my restaurant kept telling me, hey, you should audition for Spike Lee's new movie. And though I was a movie illiterate, I did not come up watching movies.
Mm-hmm.
I had seen She's Gotta Have It, and I'd seen School Days because I dated a guy who was a movie person. And so that was my senior year in college. So I saw those movies, so I knew who they were talking about. And I'd heard about Do the Right Thing. Do the Right Thing did not come. It came out when I was auditioning for Love Spring, or what became a better. And I ended up finding out about the audition and going in, and I was nobody. I didn't have any film credits, nothing. But because of my Midwestern patience and charm and sitting and waiting for hours for the casting director to come, and other casting directors being so impressed with my attitude, or the fact that I didn't have one and I waited. The casting director, Robbie Reed, gave me a shot, and that was the first of six auditions over 6 weeks, and then I finally got the part.
Okay. So Cynda and Clark are polar opposites.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. That's what I wanted to always know. Working with Spike Lee, Denzel, and Wesley. What was that experience like?
Well, it the show, if you remember it,
Mm-hmm.
it was about men more than anything.
Right.
The women was a subplot. It was really about this man, his relationship with his instrument, his relationship with his manager and his friends. And then there were women.
Right.
And so I only was in a few scenes. In the scenes I was were all most of them were with Denzel, a couple of them were with Wesley. And then the couple I was able to come and, for the club scenes or whatever. But I was by myself. Joie and I were only in one scene at the same time, in the red dress scene. But we weren't really introduced to be friends.
Right.
And a lot of the actors in that movie were method actors, so they were being the characters. So I didn't really like have experiences on a personal level with that many people. Um, and we did rehearse and stuff. I a lot of people, I don't know if this is true now. It's been a lot of years, but Spike Lee in the beginning didn't do a lot of writing. It was the actors improving. We would improv and then he would write down what we would say. So we
I
really kind of created.
never knew that.
Yeah, we at least in that movie and in Jungle Fever, I don't know about the other movies, but the ones I was involved with, the actors were the creative force behind the dialogue. And honestly, before I even got the part, Spike talked to me almost every day about who I thought Clark was, and I created that character. I mean, he knew he wanted a woman named Clark that was a love interest to Bleak. He knew that much, and he knew he wanted a triangle. But the dialogue and all that kind of stuff, he didn't really have all that. So we created those things. And so we did a few rehearsals before we started shooting where they could actually he could write that dialogue down. And so we got to work together in those sessions. But I didn't really get to spend that much time with anybody. I just was an observer, and just like I was as a child, I was very shy, introverted,
Hmm.
and so I was more of an observer than a participator unless they said action to me, action and cut. I do my job. I'm not a method actor. I don't need to do that. It's not my method. It's not the way that I find a character. I don't have to be the character. When they call action, I'm the character. When they call cut, it's over. I'm done. You know what
I,
I mean?
I know that's right.
So yeah, but that's just me. Not everybody does their own process, whatever works for them.
Mhm.
But I did not have um, a whole lot of experience with getting to know anyone. I did make a few friends on the crew, though. That's typically where I end up making friends on a crew. The hair and makeup lady was awesome. Ruthie Carter did wardrobe. She was cool, but she was too busy to hang out. But I liked spending time with her. Cliff Booker, who did my hair and did hair for the movie, and then went on to do hair for more Spike stuff. And then he became Wesley's um, key hair guy for a long time. He and I became friends, and we still are friends.
Okay.
Um, but when it comes to the creative, the people, the actors and stuff like that. I became a friend with Giancarlo and Bill Nunn later, because there was a bunch of kid games and stuff happening with when it comes to me. So I didn't really get to know anybody until later.
Mhm.
And Giancarlo and I became very good friends for quite some time. And Bill Nunn he's just a gem. We did another project together called, it was a short film for Showtime called Fearless. One of my favorite things. Not the nicest character. A lot of my characters aren't very nice, but that one in Fearless was awful. She was not a nice girl. Um, but working with them, it was a there were several people in that movie. Roger Guinevere Smith played the bad guy. Um, but it was that was a close-knit group because it was a smaller cast. And most of the work was between Giancarlo, Bill Nunn, and I. So that's when I got to know them. And but especially Giancarlo. He and I really were friends. And then he got super busy and I was busy and our lives went different directions. And I haven't really talked to him since. It's been a very long time, but I learned from everyone. I
Mhm.
because I am observant. I had to learn how to do movie stuff on my feet because I was a trained actor for the stage, not for film.
Right.
I didn't know anything about film. So, though we were all newbies at the time, Denzel had done a few movies and had done a television show. Spike had his two successful first two films. And everybody else was kind of new. Giancarlo was a stage actor. Wesley was a stage actor. Everybody, we were all just coming up. But they had had more experience with movies than I had. So you don't need to tell me anything. You just got to show me, A
Right.
lot of times people didn't even know I was learning because I didn't say, hey, can I ask you a question? No, I just watched everything they did. I listened for the lingo. I listened and watched how, you know, so many actors don't know. Like, for instance, if you're doing a film, that it's really important that you know what your frame is, right? What are
Hmm.
people going to see? It makes a difference in everything. It makes a difference how you hold your body. It makes a difference in what the camera is seeing and what's important. If it's a close up, makeup gotta be on, everything, all that stuff's got, and you can't mess that up because it's right on your face, right? But if the
Right.
frame it's a wide frame, it's your full body, then you're concerned about the wardrobe. Is is everything where it needs to be? Where is my light? Can I see my light? Am I in the right position for the best light for the shot? And there's just all these little technical things that you don't have to deal with on a stage, but I learned it from watching all these great actors.
Okay.
Mhm.
So I was gonna ask you, what did that role mean for you personally and professionally? But you answered all of that, and I'm happy. So after Mo Better Blues, how did you navigate Hollywood since you had your
Well,
feet wet somewhat?
I think I can really be, pretty honest right now. There was a time I had to really watch my words, but now that everything's kind of come out about what Hollywood is like,
Hmm.
and people know it's real, then I can be a little bit more honest. I was given some options very early on. I was told I was blackballed for certain, things I wouldn't do,
Right.
and then I was offered certain things that I said no to. So it really affected my career. I just wasn't willing to do certain things because I was a church girl, and I just wasn't feeling the stuff. I did not believe, I believe that I already paid my dues to be able to do the work by being in school, by doing shows my whole life, by preparing. I did not want to uh, perform fellatio in order to get a job, right?
You
I
shouldn't have
want,
to. You
you
shouldn't
shouldn't.
have to.
You shouldn't have to. And some people didn't have to, but some people, depending on the way you look, um, they decide, okay, this is what you got to do. And this is not just for women, this is for men. It's
Hmm.
same thing, we perform certain duties, do certain things, allow us to control your life and all of that. And you can be rich and you can work all the time and you can blah blah blah. And the thing that was a no-go, but it was really a no-go because they wanted to control the projects that I did. They were like, because I fortunately got one false move before this stuff happened.
Before the
And
shenanigans
before
began.
the shenanigans, I mean, the shenanigans began immediately,
Right.
but to that level, I had already gotten that movie. And then one of the things they said, they were like, if you agree to this, you will not be doing any more independent films. You will only do studio movies. We will pick them all. We will choose your leading people. We will choose your clothes. We will choose your friends. We will choose this. We will choose that. But you'll have everything you've ever dreamed of. And I was like, that don't sound like it.
I know.
And I told him, no, I really love because I had already shot that movie. So I really, really, truly love what I just experienced on that film, The Freedom in it. And I like doing independent films. I want to be able to do both. And I hope I get to work with you guys, but I don't want you to be able to tell me what I can and cannot do when it comes to my own career. And they're like, "Are you sure? If that's how you feel?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's how I feel." And they left me. They said, "Well, eat on up. Enjoy your film. We'll be leaving you." And they left, and then they put me on a no hire list, and because I wasn't in it for the games, and it took me a long time to find all this out. I didn't know it all. I was too young and dumb to understand what I was doing, except for just following my heart and who I am. But I did not have the career I could have had, but I still had a career. I was very blessed, and I don't regret any of it at all. I would not have made a different choice if I'd known what was coming. I would have still said no.
I know that's right. So you done work in TV and film. Do you have a preference?
Well, I honestly haven't had too much experience with television. I've done some television movies, which are really just like
So it's the
movies.
same. Okay.
Yeah, but I haven't done, say, a series. I auditioned for tons, but I always got the same thing. You're not really the TV type. Too intense, too gritty, too thick. Um, I didn't really fit.
What? What? We don't want to see popsicles on TV.
Oh, they weren't choosing for you.
I
They
know
weren't
that's right.
choosing for you.
I know.
And so I got one, I think. Well, I've done a few pilots, but one big one. And it was after Katrina happened in New Orleans, and the show was in New Orleans. And I loved it so much, but I think it was just too much too soon.
Okay.
It was really showing the truth about how things were there.
Hmm.
And I just think it was just a little bit too much for the studios. They did not want to show how crooked and corrupt stuff is.
Right.
And so they didn't let us do that show. But other than that, everything else, I've done a couple of guest star roles. Um, and that was fun, but I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had a whole lot of TV experience.
Okay. So you you're also a singer, as I mentioned before. When I heard the soundtrack, that's what made me wanted to go see the movie. I was
Mhm.
like, man, she blowing. She
Mhm.
blowing. And I was like, man, I hope she sing this song in the movie. And you did, you know? I'm watching the movie. I'm like, man, why he don't want to listen to her? Cause Denzel's character. Shout out to Denzel. He was so caught up into himself. He didn't care about nothing else, nothing. You
Mhm.
know. But
I
Shadow,
agree.
he did take the time to listen, and he was like, man, hey, you're a star, and he ain't lie.
Mhm.
So how did music become part of your journey?
Well, like I said, that's what I began with. I was a singer first.
Hmm.
The reason why I got into acting is in public schools back in the day when they actually cared about the arts. If you were in the choir, you were going to be in the chorus of the play, of the
Hmm.
musical. So
Right.
that's kind of how I really got started doing that. And because I was good at it, then they started opening up more opportunities for me. And so I mean, I was a singer first, actor second.
Okay.
It switched eventually, but I was in the choir, I had my own bands, I sang in vocal groups, I sang for a living. I did a lot of recording, just never really put a lot of stuff out there. Um, so that was my everything was my music. But then when I had a record deal for a brief moment. There
Can
were a
you
lot of
can
things
you
that
can
stopped
you say the
that.
label? Can you say what label?
Yeah, Columbia at the time,
Okay.
Sony, yeah. And there was a lot of things going on that stopped that process and put it on a shelf that I won't talk about.
I
But
understand.
yeah, there were reasons why, but there was also this reason why it was a very dark business.
Right.
The movies is dark enough. Music was a whole other level of dark. And I just wasn't that girl. I just wasn't that girl. So I'm a home girl. I'm a reader. I
Right.
watch HGTV. That's the kind of person I am. And so I just didn't fit that world. I could sing, I'm a great performer, but I wouldn't play the game.
Right. But
So I
but
just prefer to sing on my own, write my
right.
own music, sing with bands, and I was comfortable with that.
It's nothing wrong with being independent. Nothing at all. Even the video, it was tasteful. Um, Style was in there. I didn't know you was from Chicago, but when I found out you was when the movie came out, I was that much more happy being a
Mhm.
Chicago native myself. I
Yeah.
was like, the song cold, but I hadn't heard nothing else. But I bought the single, when I was in high
Mhm.
school. I bought it,
Mhm.
so I think you did
Yeah,
a
it was
good
a beautiful
job.
song. I never, was not my style, not my genre, but I really loved every part of it. I loved Raymond Jones, who was the producer and
Hmm.
who wrote the music for it. I loved um, being there when the orchestra was playing and then watching Branford play and
Hmm.
because I had to like sing the song for everybody. They wanted to hear my voice while they were doing their parts. And
The
then
creative
after all of
process.
that, then I recorded my parts.
Hmm.
And Raymond was a very hands-on producer. I'd never recorded like that before. I've just been singing live most of the time. But
Hmm.
he like took phrase by phrase by phrase because he knew exactly what he wanted and what he wanted to hear, and he pulled out a really beautiful performance. I I don't when I hear myself in that song, it's so funny sounding to me because I was such a kid. I was literally a baby. I was like 22, 23 years old, and I had not come into my voice yet. now, and plus, not only that, I didn't have any experience. I was very, very sheltered girl. I just started dating and stuff. And
Right.
so I didn't understand what that song was about. Now I sing that song, it's coming from a completely different place. And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds different because I have a different voice. My voice has grown.
Right.
It's, and that's
Mm-hmm.
including my speaking voice. Back in the days, to talk really high and really light and because I hadn't found my voice. My daughter sounds just like she sounds now like I did then.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but I
So,
found my voice and but it was beautiful and that was Raymond Jones was the reason why.
so what are you currently working on now?
Well, when my daughter started school, that's when I left LA. I wanted to raise her near my family. Her dad didn't care where we were, so I just wanted to get out of LA. I didn't like the environment to raise a child, especially her, because she stands out. She's so pretty, and
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to raise a kid who only cared about the superficial, the face and the
Right.
body and all of this stuff. She came home talking about being fat one day, and I was like, "Oh, we gotta go."
What?
Yeah, she
We
was
gotta shut this
4.
down.
Yeah,
We out of here.
yeah. So we left, and we ended up moving a lot. Um, but I ended up doing a lot of writing. When I chose, I was like, okay, I got to take a little bit of a hiatus. I can do little movies here and there, but nothing to take me away from my daughter. That's my job now.
Mm-hmm.
But when she was in school, I was able to write, and I'd been writing screenplays for quite some time, but I'd never really pushed myself as a writer. But then I was able to write a book, and I started writing professionally, writing for other people. And so I do more of that than anything. Now that my daughter's gone, I'm starting to get back into it. Obviously I'm not the ingenue. I'm more like somebody's mama or even grandmother in some cases. Um, and nowadays I've been getting some really interesting scripts that are wonderful roles. So we'll
Okay.
just see. They're independent films, so we'll just see if they get made. But I will act if I think it's a phenomenal script, a role that will take me to a new place,
Mm-hmm.
and a fee that will take care of my budgetary needs. Um, I
Mm-hmm.
write for other people. That's kind of my day job. I've been doing some producing. That happened without I wasn't trying to make that happen, but I'm pretty good at
What's an
development.
accident?
Yeah, it was a happy accident.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know I was good at that stuff, but I am. Um, and
Okay.
I still sing. I haven't really sung, like COVID kind of shut down that business for me. And
Streaming
but
too.
yeah. So now I might be doing some stuff. I've got a couple people I'm working with. I've sung in movies quite often. I'm getting ready to there's this guy named Jerry Cummings, who was in Harold and the Blue Notes. He was one of them, and so he was going to do his autobiographical
Okay.
biopic, and I'm gonna play, I think, his mother in that, and I'll sing in that. And then I have a friend, Dantes Alexander, who he and I are gonna do a project. He's gonna produce it. And then there's this lady that's just amazing singer, Queen Kiana, who I sang one song with, and I think we're gonna record an entire album. And with that one, I just did background because I enjoy that. I love harmonizing. Like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
come from choirs. So I'm still doing the music. I write. I do a lot. A lot.
So you've done motivational speaking and
Mhm.
workshops. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, my origins is a church, that's where I came from. I don't consider myself a religious person. Um,
Spiritual.
yes, I am a spiritual person. I came
Mm-hmm.
up in the Christian church and I had a very positive experience for the most part, but there were definitely things that were entrenched in me that were wrong. And
Mm-hmm.
so while I respect and adore people from that background, I don't I've learned about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I really believe that God is within us, and it's nice
I
to have,
agree.
yeah, it's nice to have a tribe. It's great to have community, but church is in me. I'm the
Mm-hmm.
temple. It's happening within me. So, but I have always been one for service. That's what I was taught. One to serve, and one to help. And I've always had a gift of um, listening to people. And
Listening is love.
yes, it is. And I'm good at listening, so people talk to me a lot. And it got to the point where I had to go to school for it. I became a hypnotherapist just to
Okay.
have just to have the skills, because every movie I did, I'd end up being somebody's. I called myself the set shrink, or because everything I did, I ended up being a therapist for the cast, and it was crazy. So I needed some skills. I had natural ability to not skills, so I went back to school for that. And though I did not do it to practice, I did it so that if in those circumstances again, I could help people and have some grit behind it, some
Right.
actual learned knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then when COVID happened, I already by then had written my book. I had been blogging.
Okay.
Somebody suggested to me, my cousin was like, well, what are you going to do? Because I had this whole list of projects that went away. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. She said, have you ever thought about podcasting? I'm like, no, Black people don't like podcasting. And she goes, they don't. I said, why not? I said, I don't know. I said, they don't seem to be educated. She said, well, educate them. So I was like, okay. I didn't know that it was going to become a sensation. Everybody was going to end up doing it. But I had a podcast for several seasons. I started doing radio and found that I absolutely love it.
I
You
know,
know?
right?
Yeah, it's so fun. And and then also it would give me an opportunity to spread light and love to people
The
and
good
encouragement to
medicine.
people.
The good
Hmm.
medicine.
Exactly. So I started doing that and I haven't stopped. I did the podcast I did, the format was it was very structured and a lot of work. So 4 seasons was enough,
I
and
get it. Yeah.
yeah, and the radio thing, that was fun, but you had to depend on other people. So now I have, I do my little minute talks twice a week. Where I try to help folks. I have a live show I do on Instagram once a week, every Thursday at 5 p.m. Central, and that is a lot of fun. Sometimes I'll have some of my listeners join me, and we'll just talk. Uh, and then I do a panel show on YouTube called Adult Conversations with Cynda Family and Friends, where I have my uncle, who is an 80-year-old, and my sister, who is far younger than me, and then other guests come on and we talk about whatever's happening in the world. And now my sister and I are going to start a live on TikTok, uh, a spiritual
That's
one, because
good.
we're both, yeah. So, yep, I love doing that. And sometimes, though, it can get a little overwhelming when you present yourself that way, because people come to you with the deepest issues in this, and it's like you need to see someone, really
Yeah.
see someone. I'm not
It's draining.
trained to save your life. I can just encourage you and love on you, but they still come. So I've had to learn how to help people and then send them to others that can help them more.
Right. Help less to help more.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you balance everything? creativity, business, personal life? How do you balance everything?
Well, I think since I was born, I always had a lot of responsibility. My mom,
Hmm.
when I was born, my dad was in the army, and it was just my mother and I. My mother had polio.
Oh,
So she
wow.
was constantly unwell. She was constantly getting surgeries in pain. So I had to learn really fast, very quickly, how to help my mother.
Hmm.
So I've always been a person with a lot of responsibility. I was firstborn of five between my parents and two more sisters that came later when my father remarried. And then I was the oldest, I have one cousin older than me by less than a month, but I was the one that was kind of treated like the elder of all my cousins, and then all the church, and then all. So I've had so much responsibility and so many jobs throughout my life, including taking care of my parents, that I just grew disciplined and uh, learn how to manage my time. And pressure actually helps me. It doesn't hurt me because I can feel when I need to let up and take a break and stuff like that. But
Okay.
since my parents passed, both of them, they passed within a year of each other during COVID. And my daughter graduated from high school and went on to college, and now she's graduated and she's a young adult. All of a sudden, I went from, having all this responsibility to just having me. My siblings didn't need me. They're doing their own things. I have
Hmm.
friends, but they're all over the world. No one is here near me.
Hmm.
So all of a sudden, I just have me, and I have never taken care of myself.
I know. Like being the
Yeah.
oldest is so much responsibility. And,
Mhm.
sometimes it's a gift and a curse helping people. Like they always think that like it's some type of ulterior motive, but it's just embedded in you, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, and I've had to learn. I have been, empathetic people, empaths tend
Mm-hmm.
to draw narcissists to them because a narcissist can see that you want to give. That's what you want to do. And so they just
Right.
take it, take it, take.
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to learn to have boundaries, I've
Right.
had to learn to say no sometimes. I've had to learn uh, to, not go when called at every turn.
Right.
And learn how to take care of me, take care of me. I mean, once my daughter was born, all the little stuff, how the ladies get their nails done, the hair done. I do my own stuff. I don't have nobody, you know, I stopped
Mm-hmm.
taking care of me in those ways because I had a child and I was an actor, and that's a very irregular schedule when it comes to work and money. So I had to balance and budget and all this kind of stuff. And she
Mm-hmm.
got everything, 'cause she was a child. She needed that.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped doing things for myself, and I'm just now really learning how to do it. But because of all this lifetime of having to be structured, having to be formatted and organized, I do that for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been being an actor, you have to be a self-starter. You can't depend on someone telling you what to do. You got to know, so I have schedules. The hardest part for me sometimes is to not be so hard on myself about that schedule, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and
You
let
you
up, give myself a break, take the days and go lay down.
right.
But I'm getting there.
If you don't, your body will. It'll tell you.
Especially now,
Mm-hmm.
as you age, you slow down a little bit, and you can't do everything you used to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can, if you stay healthy, you can do a lot for a long time, but even then, you're just less likely to be able to go a whole day without food because you forgot to eat. You need to eat, and you need to
Yeah.
eat well,
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like this, like I said, it's like a whole new phase of life for me. But I am extremely busy and enjoying all the things that I'm doing. And then I've traveled. That's why I love writing because I can write anywhere. I'll go visit my friends in LA and just take my computer and say, okay, I'm gonna go in a room and write for a few hours, and then go
Mm-hmm.
hang out with my buds, and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy myself, go to the beach, write, whatever, go wherever I need to go and hang out and work. So it's really a fulfilling lifestyle.
Okay. So,
Mm.
is there any upcoming films, projects, or ventures you got coming out that you could tell us about?
Well, I don't have anything coming out. I am supposed to be in a few projects. I'm actually very involved with making several projects, but
Awesome.
I'm not at the point yet of announcing anything, but I'm
Cool.
definitely working, I'm writing and I'm producing. And so I've got several things that are very exciting. Hopefully you'll see that stuff coming out. And but when
Yeah.
it comes to my acting, I have three movies that I know of this year that I'm supposed to be in. But you know how independent films are, you never know. So we'll
Right.
see. Mhm.
So, so if you could go back in time and tell little young Cynda Williams anything, what would it be?
Um, that that any difficulty that I'm facing is temporary. Whatever I'm going through, just keep moving forward because whatever it is, I will heal from it and it's temporary.
Okay.
That's what I'm.
All right. So, how can fans stay connected with you?
Well, I'm on all the places. Man, did you get all those emails today? I got all these emails saying drop Facebook, get rid of Meta. And
Don't
and
just do what you want to do. Like I'm gonna talk to you offline about that.
mhm. Yeah, I have only ever done social media because of the work and
Right.
connection with my fans and
Yeah.
friends that way. I've never
Exactly.
done it for fun. I've never done it. It's work. It's how I've worked for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
So I understand what they're saying, and what they're saying is important. It is, and it's true. But I have to have a replacement before I leave my workplace. You know what I'm saying? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to quit my job till I have another job.
Exactly.
And like TikTok, I'm growing on there. Um, Cynda Williams 615 at Cynda Williams 615 on TikTok. But who knows if it's gonna still be around in the next month.
Right.
And then at Meta, I'm Cinda Will or at Cinda Williams. You can find me on those things. Um, Twitter is at Cinda Cindy, another one that I've never been into, but I'm a part of some black spaces now. So that's the only reason why I'm dealing with them because I never liked them because they were too mean.
Right.
Um, so there's if you put in Cynda Williams, you can find me anywhere. They all I can't it always shocks me if I go to Google and I see my talks and they put all that stuff on Google so you can find me anywhere. If you Google me, you can
Okay.
find me. Mhm.
If it's anything that you could leave with the listeners of Radis Live, what would it be?
Well, I would say in these days that seem so bleak and scary and dark, that just like I would say to myself, this is temporary. This is sometimes you've got to fight your way through the darkness to get to the light. And I believe that's the process that we're going through right now. We are in a rebuilding phase or in the birthing phase. And if you know anything about birth, it is not easy, it's painful, and it takes time. But if we can just stay out of fear, stay out of anger, and stay in love, coming from there, coming from that place in you, you will survive this time and you will thrive in this time, and you will be better for it.
Thank you. Thank you for being a guest on Radis Live. Peace.